I just came up with another bright idea. I am so
Hi everyone, I'm Melanie Cecarelli, Vice President and Partner of Harvest Development Group, and I am so pleased today to be joined by my good friend and colleague, Tom Andrea. Tom has over 30 years experience in the public relations arena, really working with corporations in their social corporate responsibility programs, but more importantly, with working with nonprofits and how he has helped them craft and appear in the media. So Tom, thank you so much today for our conversation. I'm so happy that you're able to join us.
Happy to be here, Melanie. Good to see you.
I know. We're usually, together, but here it is today. So, like everyone, which I think, is going to be part of our conversation, is working in this virtual environment for public relations these days. Right. So, Tom, let's just get with some of the basics. The difference between what is public relations versus marketing. I think sometimes people get confused between those two and kind of blend them together when they're really separate topics.
That's a good point, Melanie. Marketing is the overall umbrella. And underneath that, you have everything from your logo to your tagline, to your website, to your ad campaign, to your social media channels, and public relations. So PR is part of the marketing umbrella. And the thing about PR, the rest of the things I just mentioned cost you money. PR is earned. You earn public relations. It is something that people believe in more because it is third-party endorsement. It's an article. It's a photo caption. It's not an ad that you buy. It's not a logo that you create. It's not a social media post. It's something that you earn. So people believe more of what they read and see than what you throw at them at an ad. So it's very vital.
So when you talk earned, in that definition, Tom, I'm thinking almost like your reputation. You earn a good reputation. You earn that public image. So that's kind of what you're talking about with that phrase, right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Why is it important to have that good image and that brand for an organization? And what do people think of when they hear public relations? What are some of the first things people think about?
Years ago, public relations, I think, had a bad reputation because it's something that people thought of you needed when things were wrong. You had to spin something. You had to take care of a problem. Yes. You had to take care of an issue. And to a point, that's still necessary. But more public relations can now be a strategic, proactive role in your marketing campaign. It's something that is very vital because it can build trust and awareness with the public. It can introduce your products or nonprofit areas, their services to the people. It's also a good way of attracting volunteers and donors. And of course, it is also important for damage control if you do have a problem. But more now than ever, PR is coming to the table to set an agenda, to set your goals, to reinforce your mission, to develop your reputation, rather than, okay, let's call a PR firm to fix something. Don't do that. Build your reputation with the good stuff that you're doing. I love doing public relations for nonprofits because it's intrinsically good news. It's important news, and you're helping. And I think you should be out there in front of it before you need it, if you know what I mean.
I just came up with another bright idea. I am so smart.
For nonprofit executives or the spokesperson for the organization, what are some of the key things that they need to keep in mind when dealing with a public relations arena? Whether it's social media, whether it's print, whether it's the news. What are some things that people can do to prepare?
I think it's a good question. I think people need to be attuned to the news. For instance, recently, a famous Hollywood couple lost a child. And so if you're in the area of prenatal care, you should jump on the opportunity to take a national story and localize it. Okay. A lot of media still follow Hollywood, still follow the government, still follow trends that are going on or events are going on nationally. So I always tell my clients to stretch their story. Look with bigger eyes, based instead of what you're doing in the community. Maybe this is a national trend that reflects what you do. Maybe it's an international trend of what you can do, because the media is always interested in taking a national story and localizing it. So I know I'm talking this way and that way, meaning that the media in Connecticut would like to take a national story and localize it. Well, here comes your nonprofit, a local nonprofit, and you can talk about everything from prenatal care to women's health to women's safety, and you can stretch it to fit into the national conversation. So I think that's where nonprofits really come in handy. And that can go with anything that erupts, whether it's, if you ever hear of people that are affected by Alzheimer's, if you're read about people that are affected by postpartum depression, or any of those things that are talked about at a national level, get involved in that conversation on the local level. Show how the products and services that you provide are important, because they are important around the world. So I think that's very important.
Yeah, it reminds me of the phrase, think globally, but act locally.
Yeah, yes.
So, to take that global view and communicate and to promote your profit activities.
Right. Now, obviously, there's some things that you do, whether it's a walk for hunger, whether it's a event for veterans, that don't have a national or international bang to it. But again, you're doing God's work in the community. We need good news in our media. And so if you're doing something around an event that's very important, share it, promote it, go out there and talk about it. You asked me before about how people prepare for these kind of things. I think it's important to get your ducks in a row. And what I mean by that is, one, have a spokesperson that can talk clearly about your company's mission and what they're doing that day of the news coverage. And that person should be prepared with key messages. Don't bombard yourself with 10 to 12 messages. You won't remember any of them during the interview. Just keep it simple, the 3 to 4 main messages of what's going on that day. And also try to think like a reporter. What kind of visual or other information can you offer to make the story complete? That can be, if you're helping a veterans group, well, who from the veterans group can also speak to the media? Get that duck in a row. Get the visual duck in a row, meaning that what you want the media to see. Because the more you can help the reporter, the better your story is going to be, because you're making their job easier. You have your ducks. Having ducks in a row is very important, because you want the reporter to know that you know what's going on and you're there to help them. You're there to help them get the story. And Melanie, nowadays, newsrooms are stretched so thin, reporters don't have time to spend hours with you. Okay? Exactly. I tell a reporter, if you're in a rush, get there by 9:30. I'll have you out of there by 10 o'clock. I'll get you what you need. So I help them. So having your ducks in a row really, really helps.
So, Tom, you and I have talked, several times about the need for nonprofits when they're in the media, to promote something, that key message. So, what's the event? What's it for? And what are the outcomes? What do they hope to achieve? Right. So you want to have those 3 levels there. But we know sometimes, it's human nature. Like I was just saying, we'll get back to, how public relations have changed, that conversation sometimes takes a different route than what you intend to say. Right. So I'm prepared. I want to talk about, an event that's going on, that's going to, as you mentioned, well, a walk for hunger, maybe. And so, we're talking about a walk for hunger, and we hope to raise X number of dollars to help families in a certain community. And someone may say, well, used to have a food kitchen, and then it turns into, who's your favorite chef, right? Because the conversation just kind of takes this crazy little route.
Right.
How do you get that back? How do you regain control? And what are some tips that you can give, some of these, executives or spokespersons for the organization?
And that can happen at any time
Right.
with a reporter. They can go off and they can try to drag you or get you involved in a conversation on another topic that you should not be involved in. What we try to tell people is stay in your lane. Stay in your lane of what the day's topic is, and be polite but firm in staying in your lane. Like saying, well, I'm not here really to talk about best restaurants, but I'm here to talk about the importance of what a walk is doing. Or you can say, I cannot comment on that about, maybe it's they want to drag you into an area of politics. You say, well, I can't comment on that.
Right.
Today we're here to focus on, so you go back to one of your primary messages and you get back into your lane. And the media will pick up on that, unless you really have a reporter who's having a really bad day and will harp on you. But in this area of nonprofits, I don't think they will once you just stay in your lane and let them know you're staying in your lane. So be polite, but be truthful. I'm not here to comment on that today, or you can even say, I'm not well versed in that area, but, and then you go back to what is going on that day.
I just came up with another bright idea. I am so smart.
So Tom, we started out the conversation a little bit talking about, all the different platforms and how public relations over the past even few years, but, decade or so has changed from, I'll say just print material, newspapers or radio or television, but now we're living in this 24/7 environment. And is there a different way of managing all those media outlets, in your opinion?
You have to be nimble. You have to be quick. Jack sat on a candlestick. Sorry, but I'm just going on that line. You got to be nimble and quick if you're dealing with the media. And that's one of the things. If you decide to have a proactive PR component of your group, you must have a point person that can handle what is necessary. If you get a call from a media outlet, make sure you answer it in an appropriate time fashion. We're not talking a day. We're not talking, we're talking minutes or a half hour or an hour. And how do they find you? Make sure your name and contact info are clearly stated on your website.
Yes.
Okay, that's key. How do they find you? Well, on your website for media inquiries, you give your name, number, and email address. And if you're contacted, get back to them. Do the story, don't do the story, see what they want. And you will usually see now the old days, you would see your story in the paper the following day. Well, you can see your story now in 30 minutes after they interview you. So there's a quick turnaround. And that is bad and good, meaning that, like I said, you have to respond quicker than you did in the past. You got to be on your feet, on the balls of your feet. But also, and this has happened to me more than once, we'll do a story, it's online, and there are parts of it that are wrong, that are incorrect. Well, the online, it now gives you the opportunity to go to the reporter and say, this was misstated, or this fact is incorrect. Will you please fix it? And they will. And they will fix it online. So by the time it's in print the following day, it's corrected. Okay. Now there's the other side of that. Sometimes news stories don't appear online until they're in print. So if they're incorrect in print, they're going to be incorrect online. You can't worry about print. Contact the reporter and request that it's changed online. And they will always do that. They will always do that. When I send an email out to a reporter that got something wrong, in my subject matter, I have in big bold letters, correction requested. That gets eyes. That gets eyes. The reporter will check that out. And reporters are good. They want the right story also, and they will change it. So that immediacy has its benefits and its drawbacks. So you just got to be ready to act and react if necessary.
So, Tom, we know that, some of our larger nonprofit organizations have staff available, whether it's a marketing communications professional or, public relations consultant at their ready to address any issues or set out press releases. But for smaller nonprofits who may not have that as a ready resource, how can they manage their public relations arm of the organization? What are some things that we can share with them as far as contacts or getting press releases out, or how to create that public relations buzz about their organization?
If they have the budget, work with a consultant on the outside who can do this. If they don't have the budget, then it goes back to, it's really the same kind of thing, Melanie. It's like appoint one person, and that could be the CEO.
Mhm.
Appoint one person whose name will appear on the website that people can connect, and that same person will be the same person who will make the outreach to the media.
Mhm.
And so you say, well, how do I do that? How do I do it? Well, in this day and age of the internet, every media outlet on the web has a section called Contact Us.
Right.
You
Yeah.
want to get that basic. You go to that contact and you look at who the correct contact is. You may get a personal name or maybe a general email address, but there's your in. There is your in. You can also look at previous stories around the field that you're talking about and see who wrote about them.
I
And
see.
there's a reporter's name there, and there's also a link to contact that reporter, or they'll
Mhm.
actually give the reporter's email address. So do some research. It takes some time, but do some research, and you can develop your own media list based on what you find on the internet. And always do your media list. In the old days, I would say always do your media list in pencil, because contexts change all the time. 5 minutes after I do a media list, it's outdated. So
Right.
it's just the way it is. But that's the way of building your media. You say, okay, I want to focus on someone at the Hartford Current or WFSB3. Well, go to the websites and look at the kind of stories that they've covered before. Check out the Contact Us on the page, and then slowly build your media list that way. And Melanie, when you're talking about small staffs, well, this person who can also do the research and develop the media list can send out the press release. And you're not talking a big group here. You're not talking a lot of news stories. So I think your small staff can pull it off once they build a foundation. And that foundation really is a media list and who they are in terms of the person, and also what they want to say. So there's some foundation work that needs to get done. And then a very important part of public relations is the second word, relations, nurturing those relations.
Mhm.
Okay. If you get a no, don't be afraid of going back to the reporter or writer if you think there's a story down the road that they may appreciate. If you get a yes, build that relationship with that reporter for future stories. There is that's a very effective way of building your own brand, building your own reputation, that you are a reliable source. Okay, you are a reliable source. You've reached out to this reporter before, you did a story together, or you didn't do a story together, but you liked the story they had, but they couldn't do it. Go back to them until they tell you stop bothering me, or until they tell you go to some other person. You build that initial contact.
Got it. And when you talk about cultivating relationships, it's something we always say about nonprofits cultivating their donors. You need to keep cultivating those relationships so they stay front of mind.
Yes, yes, that's
Some parallels there.
Correlation. Yes, there is, because you're building trust with them also. That's very important. The media wants to have trustworthy sources of information, and if you proved yourself, that can only get better. And so and also, there's nothing wrong with picking up the phone, calling the outlet, whether it's print, radio, or newspaper, and say, hi, I'm da-da-da. I represent, I have a story about who should I send it to? It can be that basic.
Yeah.
And then they say, send it to the assignment desk, send it to here, da-da-da-da-da. So there's nothing wrong with that either, is that initial phone contact. That now, quickly, let me just say, don't pester the media either. When you're doing an event, alert them to it via either a press release or a media alert, and we can talk about those later. Send it to them. Follow up a couple of days later with a phone call and see how far you get. But don't pester them with phone calls. Don't pester them with repeated emails. Don't turn them off with your aggressiveness. You have to be somewhat subtle in your approach. So I will, if I'm doing an event, like I'm doing an event on Monday, today's Thursday, I'm going to send an media advisory out today to print people. I'll probably send the media advisory out Friday to TV people. And first thing Monday morning, I will resend it. First thing Monday morning, the event's at 11 on Monday. And then I'll follow up with a phone call to the TV stations. That's it. That's it. I'm not going to be calling them 3 or 4 times in the morning. I'm not going to be sending them emails left, right, and center field. Would you like that? No. Yeah. I mean, it's like someone pestering you for a sales job. Don't do that. Don't do that. So be right size and have the finesse to know when you've asked enough. And I think the media will appreciate that also.
I just came up with another bright idea. I am so smart.
So Tom, you mentioned the word media advisory, but we've also you also said media alert and press release. I know that's probably most people are familiar with. So those 3 distinctly different formats or outlets. So what are the differences between the 3?
A press release is a traditional headline and paragraphs of copy, and it tells a story, and hopefully someone will pick it up and run with it. And they're vital when you're announcing a new appointment, whether it's a CEO or a senior VP. That's a good way of announcing people, and a good way of announcing products and services. But if you're trying to get the media to an event, then I would use a media advisory. My media advisories are a bold headline with a who, what, when, and where. Literally, who, what, when, and where underneath that headline that tells them the background of the event. What is going on, where it's going on, when it's going on, who to contact. And that is a quick read. And the outlets appreciate that. So you don't have to read through a press release. It's right there, bam, bam. And use your creativity. Come up with a great headline. Catch my attention. And if that headline is catchy, put it in the subject line of your email. And then list all the specifics of that day. So that is a media advisory. And Melanie, I also refer to as media alert. So those two are the same thing. But I'm a big fan of those. I'm a big fan of doing it. Now, there's also a point where you will have an event and no one from the media may arrive.
Right.
Breaking news, not interested, don't have enough staff. So those kind of things that I say to my client, okay, let's create the news. And what do I mean by that is that I'm a big fan of photo captions, magazines, some newspapers, websites like content. And so if you can have a photographer there, or if you're good with your iPhone, I'm looking for mine, you take a photo, you put it into a JPEG format, which is the relative format of all photos. You write a nice caption and you send that off to outlets for coverage of your event. You even do that when you get coverage from TV newspapers, because magazines like that, online services like that, like I said, some newspapers do that, and you're very clear with your caption. Your caption should have a headline, 3 or 4 sentences of copy, and also put down photo credit. Photo credit is usually the group that's sending it, the business, the nonprofit that is sending it. Sometimes it's a personal name if you hired a freelance photographer, but media likes to know who to give credit to for a photo. I'm a big fan of those. I've been for years.
And also always put your contact information on there, right?
I should be embedded in your
Yeah.
email. So
Right.
I'm a big fan of those. Sometimes if you're a larger nonprofit and have the ability to create B-roll, what does that mean? B-roll means background TV roll, B-roll, and again, you get your lucky camera, your smartphone, and you take a film or movie of your event. Okay, 30, 60 seconds of it. No voiceover, no music, no narration, just the visual of what is going on that day. You take that 60-second B-roll and you send it off with your media alert after the event or a description of what they're saying. And again, who took the video, and you send that to TV stations. And if you're having a really good day, the TV stations will use it. More and more TV stations are using outsourced video. Years ago, they did not at all. So again, make sure it's good quality. Make sure it's, like I say, 30 to 60 seconds long. Don't bother the media with a 90-second, 1 minute, 2 minute video. They don't have the time for that, and you won't get the news space with that. You may get a 15 to 30-second report, but you won't know until you try. So I believe with
Just
that.
a quick follow-up to that, Tom. So if I was at an event and I'm, got my cell phone and I'm taking a quick picture or a quick video, do I have to worry, or do nonprofits or any organization really need to worry about releases? That, you've taken my picture and now I need to sign a release that it can be used.
That's an excellent question. That is an excellent question. Mostly when that's a really good question. When it comes to events that businesses have, or lunches or galas or something like that, the fact that you're there, it's like automatically that you are allowed to be in videos or photos. The only time I verify that is when I'm dealing with children. If I'm doing an event at a school, if I'm doing an event that has family members there, a family setting, then I would suggest you get a release form and have and make sure that you can take photos. When I do events at schools, I always ask the principal, what do I have freedom to go to every classroom with someone from TV or someone from print or just myself? And they will tell me, you can go into that classroom, you can't go into that classroom, you can go into that classroom. So with children, it makes a difference.
Okay.
And then I would also ask, when you're doing an event with adults, and you're taking a video or I would just ask those people around you who are in it, do you mind me taking your photo? Do you mind me taking a video? So I think that works out best in that regard. But for children, make sure they have a release or that it's approved either by the school or by their parents.
I just came up with another bright idea. I am so smart.
So Tom, we've talked about, all these wonderful opportunities to promote maybe an event or a new program a nonprofit has. And we've often heard the phrase, there's no such thing as bad press, but we know there is such a thing as bad press. So for those few times or when a nonprofit may have to address something that does not maybe put them in the best light, or they have to address an issue that's not promoting a new program or a new staff person or the event, what are some recommendations or tips that you can provide on how to deal with that bad press?
Prepare, prepare, prepare. Make sure you have identified a spokesperson. that the media can go to. Don't make the media look for a spokesperson, because they may go to the wrong spokesperson.
Mhm.
Your spokesperson should have the backing of his or her nonprofit based on you prepared messages, you discussed this with your board, you know what needs to be said, and so you are the go-to person. And I would say maintain the same go-to person during that crisis. Okay, because that also makes it clear that your group is speaking in one voice. There's
Mhm.
nothing worse when there are multiple people from a nonprofit or any business talking to the media with different points of view. So prepare your messages and make sure you have the right person. Make sure that you come across that you have control of the situation. Whether that is something that involves a client of yours, or my God, it can be an internal matter. Your president could have been fired. Your senior vice president could have been fired for something they did wrong. Make sure your spokesperson comes out and clearly states that we have control of the situation. Usually when a president is involved and they're removed from the position, it's usually the chairman of the board, who then becomes the spokesperson for that kind of situation. But anything below that, it should come from the top, the president or the CEO of the nonprofit. And that even if you haven't gotten control of the situation,
Right.
by being there and saying, we know what's going on, we take this issue very seriously, we are investigating it, and we will get back to you at the appropriate time, shows control of the uncontrollable at that point. And follow through. Make sure you're ready for that next step. Don't just leave them hanging. So don't let anyone, and so in that regard, it is preparation, is that you take your organization takes control of the situation so no one else does. Okay, so that is very important. And once you start communicating on this topic, don't stop. If they come back and they want more feedback from you, give it to them. I don't think there's a point when you say, I've talked about this enough. It's a bad vibe saying, I think we've covered everything. And, so don't be afraid of ending the story, but do it in a way that says, we're not talking about this anymore. And I think we covered everything here that's important to discuss. Now, let's go back to make sure your group, no matter if you have 50 people or 4 people in your business, make sure that you have a crisis tree. And what I mean by that, okay, I'm a reporter, I'm going to go to Harvest Development. All right, I'm going to see a contact. I'm calling that contact, and I'm Joe Schmo from the Hartford Courant, and I'm saying, I heard that, and the reporter gives you the bad news. You can say, let me gather the facts, and I'll get right back to you. You go to your crisis tree, so you call the key people in your organization that need to be rounded up to address this issue. Okay, don't wait to the crisis. Have that plan in your back pocket so you know who to collect to have a call to discuss this matter, develop those messages, and get back to the media. So just make sure you have that crisis team ready. Again, it can be 2 people, it can be 12 people around a table, but just make sure you know that you have to go to this one and that one and get that story and get those answers done and then proceed. And sometimes that table could include someone from your legal department, if from your law firm. Don't be afraid of that either. But just know who you have to gather to address this issue, so then you can respond. Okay, it's not good when the story says no one was available for comment.
Right.
That implies that you're hiding to me. And you can even say, we're gathering the facts. We can't comment on this right now, but we will once we have the facts, and we take this matter very seriously. Again, it shows that you're involved. You're taking control. that
Right.
you're, that you're going to work with the media to get this. And sometimes the resulting stories won't be what you wanted, but at least you'll get your point across. If the reporter has a bug up their butt and is, furious at this, there's really nothing that you can do but just to state your case and know that tomorrow's another day.
So a couple of takeaways for me on that I'm hearing you say is acknowledge it.
Yes.
Rally the troops,
Yes.
get facts, and be responsive.
Yes.
And, earlier what we talked about, stay on message.
Yes.
Develop 3 or 4 key points and stay on message.
Do it in a timely manner, Melanie. Don't wait
Yeah.
until tomorrow or 2 days. We're not waiting for you. We're not waiting for you. Joe Schmo declined to comment. Well, get back to them. Even if you don't have an answer, just like I said, we take this matter very seriously. We're investigating the facts. We will get back to you. Shows that you take this seriously. You're just not saying later, Gator.
I just came up with another bright idea. I am so smart.
One other thing, that I know that's been happening because of, the restrictions with being in person and all, is doing a lot of these virtual type interviews. And so I'm always distracted. And do I look at you? Do I look at the camera? How does my sound sound? What, we were fooling around ourselves with, what does our background look like to make sure that our background was appropriate for today. So what are some of the things, I may be putting you on the spot with this, but what are some of the things that you would share about doing this kind of a Zoom type of interview or direct feed that, you're in your home office, but someone's in the studio? What are some things that you've seen recently changed? And what are some suggestions on how to come across most effectively?
If this video that you and I are doing now has legs and people get back to normal, let me first talk about an in-studio or in-person interview.
Yes.
I think it's very important that when you, and I always say to my clients, enjoy yourself. This interview that you're doing about your services is important and you're doing good work. Don't have your back against the wall unless it's don't give this off-putting, what am I doing here kind of look. Be engaged with the reporter. Don't worry about, and they'll tell you this, don't worry about the camera. Look the reporter in the eye and answer the reporter. The camera on TV is over there. Don't worry about it. And also make sure you dress appropriately for the interview. Stay away from the extreme colors, the blacks or the whites. Go into the middle with the pastels. Don't wear any scarves or ties that are too flashy, because I'm going to be looking at your tie and your scarf. I'm not going to be listening to what you're saying. And also just make sure that your posture and your demeanor is inviting, not off-putting. And sometimes we can be inviting as hell, and then the camera goes on, and we're like this. All of a sudden,
like deer in the headlights, right? Yeah.
Oh, don't do that. And good reporters, especially in TV, will make you feel comfortable during the interview. So go with that. And also it's great when you're doing an interview to either dress in business attire, or I know a lot of nonprofits have shirts with their names on them. They're a walking billboard. Wear that. Why not? If you don't have one, business attire is best. Nowadays, we doing what we do. I keep my eye. See, I look at myself when I'm doing a Zoom because it has more of it makes me look like I'm talking to you, like I'm talking to the camera. Okay, I'm not looking here, I'm not looking there, I'm not looking over there. So I look at myself so there's an indirect view to the viewer. Okay, even though it's just myself. I also have learned, and I've been taught to raise my computer. This is my computer on my desk. It's a little bit horsey. This is it raised slightly, so there's more context. It's not like I'm in your face. There's more, and I have a background here, so it gives me more space, and it also allows just more of a comfortable atmosphere. And I'm not talking down at you. My computer's not there, or it's not there. And lighting, you got to play with lighting. You and I play with lighting for 10 minutes before we started. Depends on what time of day. But elevate your computer. Keep it at arm's length also. That's right. Mine is at arm's. Oh, sorry, I'm touching some buttons at arm's length. And so it then allows you to talk. And like I said, looking at myself, I'm pretending like I'm looking at the viewer or at a camera.
So I know my eyes are all over the place now. So
that helps by focusing, by looking at yourself, it keeps you looking focused. Up and down and all that. They also say, lay a piece of white paper in front of you for the lighting.
Oh, really?
The great fashion designer Tom Ford said that, and whenever Tom Ford talks, you have to listen because he's in that. But when I move it away, I don't really see a difference here. But he was saying, yeah, white paper on the desk just to even off the lighting.
Interesting.
You know, I don't know. He reinvented Gucci. I don't know if he's going to reinvent
Zoom.
And make sure that the background scenes, obviously, you don't have kids and people walking behind you. Because again, I'm not going to be paying attention to you. I'm going to look at what's going on. Maybe, you know, if I was doing an interview, I'd probably turn the fan off. See my fan in the background? That's grabbing my attention. So just make the background as subtle as possible, like yours. And I think you'll come across nicely. Now, a lot of companies, a lot of TV stations, when they do interviews, they require you to have headphones on during the interview.
Oh.
Because they'll do the Zoom like this, but the question and answers will be done via the earphones. So there's no delay. There's nothing like that. And so they have you wear earphones. So that's why you see people with earphones a lot doing the interviews. So
I always wondered that. Yeah. As opposed to just doing your computer microphone.
Right. When it comes to print, we just do this. When it comes to radio, you're usually calling in. So there's no face. You can be in your pajamas doing a radio interview. There's no visual of that. And so when it comes to TV, though, they'll obviously use the visual of you in your station where you are. I mean, in your home.
Right. At our new home offices, right?
That's right. That's right.
So Tom, always a great conversation. So 2 to 3 things that we'll leave our viewers with. I sound like the newscaster. You know, what are we going to leave?
You're great. This is one. Public relations is vital to your marketing. Use it. Public relations needs to be earned. You don't buy it. You got to earn it. Make your story as easy as possible for the media to understand and to capture. And don't forget to stretch your story. If there is something on the national, the regional or national stage that reflects on what you do, go tell the media about it. They love that kind of stuff.
Great. So Tom, thanks so much. And
always glad to be with you, Miss Melanie. It was wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, my friend. All right, you have a great day.
You too.
I just came up with another bright idea. I am so smart, suddenly it just appeared. There's a light above.